Hey guys, welcome back to the next video log with me. I know it's been a really long time. I've been so busy the past few weeks, and I know that I'm so busy is not really an excuse, but let me just give you an update on what's been going on. In early December, I got married. I'm now an official Army wife. We got married in early December here in Savannah, Georgia. It was beautiful, and all our closest friends and family came out, and we had a really great time. And then I immediately went on my honeymoon to St. Lucia for about a week, which was a lot of fun. And it was actually my first time in 3 years taking real time off of work. So that was a big step for me. It was terrifying, but it was great. And then we came back, and then about a week later, we flew overseas to Korea to visit my family for a week. So we've really been all over the place, and since then we found a house to move into, and my apartment right now is about half moved out already, so I'm trying to juggle work and packing up right now. So there's that. Today I want to talk to you guys about how to break free from binge eating. And I know that this topic has been a long time coming. I get a lot of questions about this, and I know how big of a deal it is for many of us, because you know, there are so many of us who have either been through binge eating before and have come out the other side and we're now better off, or maybe we're still going through it now. But, you know, I have definitely had my fair share of binge eating episodes in the past. For those of you who don't know, I have a history of anorexia from 10, 11 years ago when I was 14 years old. I'm 25 now. And then for about 6 to 8 years after that, I still struggled with bulimia and binge eating. Just so that we're clear with terms, binge eating is typically defined as an episode in which an unusually large quantity of food is consumed within a very short period of time. And it's typically accompanied by feeling like you can't eat your food fast enough. You feel like you can't really control yourself, and you normally eat well past the point of feeling physically full. You normally eat until you make yourself almost sick. And the types of foods that people tend to eat when they binge eat tend to be the foods that they consider bad food, things like ice cream and cookies, sugary cereal, all these things. I'm very familiar with this phenomenon, and I've gone through it for years, as I said, and it's been about, I'd say, 2 years since I've had a binge. 2 years since I've had a true binge, and during that time I've worked on a lot of things since that time to move away from the binge eating. I want to share with you today 10 tips to break free from binge eating. Before I move forward, I do want to include a disclaimer. I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. Please consult your physician before moving forward. At the end of the day, these are just tips that have worked for me and have worked for my clients that I work with. I'm an online coach. I provide fitness programs for clients all over the world, and I help them overcome these things every day. So, number 1, let go of perfect eating. The idea of a perfect diet or a perfect nutrition program really doesn't exist. So if you think that there's a specific meal plan you need to follow, or you need to copy some celebrity's exact food program, and I think you're in for a lot of disappointment, because perfect eating is an absolute illusion. I don't know how you define perfect eating, but the fact of the matter is every single person has different and unique individual nutritional needs and preferences. And I'm not just talking about caloric intake and macronutrient breakdown, but even things like, when do you prefer to eat your biggest meal of the day? Do you prefer to have your carbs in the morning or the evening? Or do you prefer, I don't know, salty foods or sweet foods? Do you like ice cream or chips? These things all matter. What might work really well for me might not work really well for you, because I have different taste buds and might have a different lifestyle, and all these things come into play. Is there a better way to eat and a not so great way to eat? Yeah, of course. I like to say that 80% of what you eat should come from whole, minimally processed foods. Things like chicken and broccoli and kale and rice and potatoes. Things like cottage cheese actually qualifies as technically a processed food, and even milk. But those things are okay. They're considered minimally processed. And obviously, the typical junk food, ice cream, cereal, all that stuff, that would be considered in the remaining 20%. But even so, these are just guidelines. 80-20 is just a guideline. So just let go of the idea that there is a perfect diet out there for you that you need to follow to the letter. Okay? Tip number 2, never go on another crash diet again. The people I see who end up falling into episodes of binge eating tend to be those who either try to restrict their calories too much or restrict their food choices too much, or a combination of both. And because what happens is that when you, let's say you go on a crash diet, you slash your calories to 800 a day, and you are limited to a 12 item food list, and you have sworn off ice cream and cookies and all your favorite foods. This is a really, really bad idea, because from a psychological and from a physiological standpoint, we're not really wired to permanently swear off those kinds of foods for good, because what happens from a psychological standpoint is that the more you tell yourself you can't have something, the more you want it. You always want to diet on as many calories as you can get away with while restricting no foods. It's not hard to get in several thousands of calories worth of food in a single binge episode in one evening. And that can definitely derail all your progress. Not only that, but it really can be very discouraging when that happens, right? Because you've worked so hard during the week. So I want you to fight the temptation to go on a crash diet. Promise yourself that you're going to take it slow and take it steady, and you're going to be patient with yourself. Number 3, I want you to remove the good food and bad food distinction in your mind. I think what happens a lot of times is that when you're on a diet and you decide that you're going to be really good with your food choices, and then one day, maybe a few weeks along, you're doing really great, and then a cookie falls into your mouth. And one, it tastes so good, and you haven't had it for so long that it just gets you so excited. And 2, you feel like you've already messed up for the day. You feel like you've eaten a bad food, you feel guilty, and then you think, well, the day's already ruined, so you might as well throw in the towel and you'll begin again tomorrow. And that's a very common thought process with people who end up binging, because they say, oh, I had one cookie, today's a write-off. I'm just gonna write off today, I'm gonna start tomorrow, but in the meantime, since today's already bad, I'm just going to eat as many of the bad foods as I can, because tomorrow I don't get to have it again. Tomorrow is back to eating only good foods. Okay, so you see how that can land you into a lot of trouble. Not only that, but I really don't think that harboring guilt over the food that you eat is healthy, nor is it helpful to anyone. There really should be no guilt associated with food choices ever. I mean, when you have a birthday cake on your birthday, are you going to feel bad about it? No, that makes no sense. That's silly. Number 4, don't keep food off limits. This is very similar to the last point, but in addition to not distinguishing between good food and bad foods, you also don't want to say, well, I'm not allowed to have this, or my coach says I can't have this. By the way, if your coach says you can't eat specific foods, you should run away and fire him or her and go find someone else, or do something on your own, because there's no science that supports that having a slice of pizza every once in a while is going to derail your progress, okay? Portion sizes matter, calories matter. As I always say, nobody ever got fat from eating one cookie. One cookie's not going to derail your progress. So don't keep foods off limits. And by that, I'm not saying that you have to eat cookies every day or you have to eat Pop-Tarts every day. No, it's just a mindset issue. If you know in your mind that you have the freedom to eat whatever you want, and yet you are actively making the decision to choose primarily whole, unprocessed foods, then there is power in that choice. There is power in that choice when you say, I know I can have the Pop-Tarts at the grocery store, and I know that I have the freedom to drive over there whenever I want and buy a box off the rack and enjoy a few Pop-Tarts. But even though I know I can do that, I choose not to do it because I don't really want any right now. There's a difference between not eating something because you're not allowed to, which increases your craving for it, which harbors a lot of resentment eventually, which encourages the good food, bad food mindset. There's a difference between that and not eating something because you are making that decision on your own to not eat it because you don't really want it, because you know there are better quality foods out there for you. Number 5, Give yourself permission to indulge in foods that you truly, truly love. It completely baffles me that when people, New Year's comes around, or it's the Monday or the first day of the next month, and all of a sudden people are swearing off their favorite foods. They're like, well, I'm never gonna eat a Kit Kat ever again, even though it's my favorite food. Or I'm never gonna eat pecan pie again, which is, by the way, my favorite. Give yourself permission to indulge. I'm not saying have a whole pie every single night. No one is saying that. That's not flexible dieting. That's just foolishness. What I'm saying is, there's a difference between having a whole entire pie every night versus having a small slice maybe once or twice a week. Why? Just to take the edge off and just to allow yourself to enjoy the journey a little more. So don't ever tell yourself, oh, I'm not allowed to eat that. I know I love it and it's my favorite food, but I have to give this up for the sake of a banging body. Let me tell you, that is a myth. You don't have to give up your favorite foods to get the body you want. You don't have to give up your chocolate and your wine or any of those things. There are no restrictions. Give yourself permission.